Welcome to the motherfucking lady. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Flores was treated for a broken jaw after the controversial decision with Melissa Mortenssen of Denmark. You would have had no idea that Flores was fighting injured, as nothing Melissa Mortenssen seemed to do stopped her forward momentum. Former women's world champion Flores reportedly suffered a broken jaw in her slugfest with the new champion Melissa Mortenssen and is receiving treatment in Southwest Healthcare Inland Valley Hospital in Wildomar, California. Fighting on the first ever boxing broadcast on TikTok Live from Pachanga Resort and Casino in Temecula, California, headlined by the current unified featherweight champion Amanda Serrano, successfully defending her belts with a 12-round majority decision over Lucrecia Manzur, Mexico's Flores lost a thin 10-round unanimous decision to Denmark's Mortenssen for the vacant WBA women's super bantamweight title. Throwing power shots behind a bob and weave defense, the squat 4'11 Flores, 13-3 now with 1 draw and 4 knockouts, dropped the taller, off-balance Mortenssen, 10-0 with 5 KOs, in round 2. Abandoning caution after that pivotal moment, the two women went toe-to-toe for the rest of the fight, with both having their moments. The judges' scores of 95-94 Mortenssen,
Fuck out of here.
95-94 Flores, with a deciding 95-94 Mortenssen, were read to heavy booing from a disapproving crowd, referring to her decision loss to London's IBF, WBC, and WBO World Junior Featherweight champion Ellie Scottney in London in July of last year, in which two judges had the 10-round fight a shutout for Scottney, while the other scored it 96-94, and speaking from the hospital, Paco Damian, her promoter, voiced his frustration at what he perceived as a second consecutive injustice. She fought with a broken jaw from the 4th round, endured an incredible amount of pain, and still fought through it until the end. She did everything she could to win, only to be denied the victory, best described as adding insult to injury. Because I don't know how anybody could have scored that fight for Mortenssen. That's just being honest. I didn't even bother to score it myself. How dominant Flores was throughout, immediately backing up and backing off Melissa Mortenssen, bullying her on the ropes, bullying her. There was another fight on that same show during the prelim portion of the card with Brooke Siberian and Lupita Medina. And Brooke Siberian did the exact same thing to Lupita that Mayeli did to Melissa, except with Brooke, the judges scored it in her favor. With Mayeli,
They robbed her.
because this has got to be one of the more brazen robberies I've seen in recent memory. Melissa Mortenssen wasn't in control of that fight. If she spent that much time on the ropes, it's because Mayeli put her there, and she couldn't shake her. I don't know how CompuBox had it, but I struggle to think that anybody could have looked at the aesthetic of that fight and came to the conclusion that Melissa Mortenssen is keeping up with Flores in terms of volume, activity, accuracy. No fucking way. Not that the judges are reviewing CompuBox stats while they're scoring a fight, because they're not. They're making this evaluation in real time, which makes it all the more egregious that they would have given this fight to Melissa. There's no fucking way, no how, no reason to have awarded Melissa Mortenssen that decision, who did little more than backpedal and stay on the receiving end of Flores' punches. And it's true that Melissa Mortenssen was getting in with punches of her own here and there, but they were not having the effect on Mayeli that Mayeli's punches were having on her. So even if they're both getting off clean punches, you didn't have to overthink it. Who's winning the fight? You could have came in the middle of it after making a cheese sandwich in the kitchen and seen that Mayeli is dominating Melissa Mortenssen, who looks a lot like an umbrella caught in a monsoon. She's getting beat up. Her face was beet red from all the punches Mayeli was landing. It was a highway robbery, in my purview. There's no convincing me that Melissa Mortenssen did anything in that fight aside from get pushed around and beat up. And it's just unfortunate that Mayeli had to battle through adversity from round 4 onward with a broken jaw just to have the decisions she so rightfully earned taken from her. I don't know what those judges were thinking. What else happened this past weekend? Last night, Teofimo Lopez successfully lifted the WBA title from Romero, though not without going through some things, some adversity. In keeping with the trend of fighters vetted by Top Rank beating fighters vetted by the PBC, the trend stuck and the prediction stuck because I picked Teofimo Lopez to win, though I'd be lying to you if I said that I were impressed with what I saw. Rolly Romero, coming off of what was a 15-month layoff, was really able to hold his own in the opening stanza and the first half of the fight. The tutelage,
The knowledge
of Ismael Salas, otherwise known as El Profesor, he's really had an impact on Rolly Romero's boxing. All jokes aside, it's surprising how much Ishmael's
methods.
philosophy has rubbed off on Rolly, who's a bit of a running joke on this channel.
A running gag.
A testament to how far from grace American boxing has fallen, that this is what passes for a welterweight champion in this era. But I have to say that he boxed pretty well at the start of yesterday's welterweight contest, hanging back, shifting his weight onto his back foot, and working off the counter, making Teofimo Lopez come to him, which, as we all know, is a bit of a weakness for Teofimo. He's not the same on the offensive as he is on the defensive.
So Rolly was able to catch him with counter rights, counter lefts.
In the first few rounds, there was noticeable redness and swelling on the right side of Teofimo Lopez's face from the counter left hands he was absorbing by Rolly, who was working off the counter, and it was actually working. He hurt Teofimo in the beginning.
There was a noticeable difference in power, too. Rolly's punches were heavier than Teofimo's. Whenever Teofimo got in with a shot, it did not have the effect on him that Rolly's punches were having on Teo.
Many of us on the panel had Rolly Romero sweeping most of the rounds in the first half of the fight, but towards the second, there was a shift. Teofimo Lopez inching forward, pecking away at Rolly Romero, landing punches here and there. Rolly's output, that was starting to wane, and you started to see Rolly retreating more, just circling away from Teo, using the ring, still trying to work off the counter, but the punches weren't as snappy as they were in the beginning. Not as sharp.
I believe that was ring rust starting to show up for Rolly Romero, who had not boxed in well over a year. So while he had gas in the tank in the beginning, he was boxing a good fight, but down the stretch, he started to fade.
Teofimo starts to take over, and he seems the snappier fighter of the two in the back end of the fight, the sharper fighter of the two with more left to give, winning those closing rounds on activity and clean punches, not necessarily the most damaging. I mean, he looked a lot worse for wear after the fight than Rolly did, but he won.
Albeit in underwhelming fashion, this was not the mismatch that two-division champion, Hall of Fame inductee Timothy Bradley predicted, because he made it seem like Rolly didn't even belong in the same ring with Teofimo Lopez. But yesterday's fight tells a different story, that perhaps if not for the inactivity, Rolly would have won. He would have got to keep his WBA title.
I want to say that I was not impressed with what I saw from Teofimo Lopez overall, and the production, just the card in its entirety, was underwhelming from start to finish. This fight had no buzz. Evident in veteran commentator Al Bernstein's perspectives ahead of the fight, saying, to be honest, there is literally not an ounce of buzz here in Las Vegas for Lopez versus Romero. It's barely registered in terms of coverage or talk of the town.
Big-time boxing matches used to be a big draw in Sin City, city of Las Vegas, but nobody seemed to care about this match. That's how far from grace boxing has fallen in the modern era, and what I can only describe as the weakest and worst era of welterweights that I have ever seen. Veteran boxing scribe Dan Raphael echoed that sentiment, no surprise.
That this fight didn't have any buzz? Why would it? You've got one guy coming off a 15-month layoff who doesn't have that many fans anyway, and another guy who literally lost earlier this year in lopsided fashion. So why would anybody be excited to see those two guys fight, let alone pay $80 to see it at home?
For an event that veteran boxing scribe Stephen Kimothy, a friend of the channel, described as being thoroughly mediocre, and that there was more entertainment on the brand risk card running parallel to yesterday's big-time boxing match, the legitimate one, that these social media influencers moonlighting as pugilists are in fact outpacing what are supposed to be the real ones in terms of attention, drawing power, charisma, and overall entertainment, which is what all of this is intended to be.
Not that I expect any viewing figures to be published for yesterday's box office fight, but I wouldn't be at all surprised to find out that the brand risk event probably drew more eyeballs to it than Romero versus Lopez.
For the simple fact that a Larry Wheeler who fought on the brand risk event and Vitali already have bigger followings than either Rolly Romero or Teofimo Lopez, that the boxers themselves are not the compelling characters that they used to be. People whose stories you want to follow, you want to watch, you want to find out. Not with these kids.
Maybe it's because they don't seem the serious professionals that their predecessors did. These kids don't seem like they're fighting for anything in particular, anything noble. This is just a job to them.
Tio's getting a title shot he didn't earn, that he doesn't deserve, for what's supposed to be his name value, but what value is that?
When he never had that big a following, and Rolly, who's supposed to be the defending champion, is really only a champion because he was in the right place at the right time to be elevated to that position. You could argue that he didn't really earn it either.
The WBA made up a title for him and Ryan to fight for out of thin air,
so that when he wins, he could sit out for over a year and come back in another box office fight. Now, maybe this would have panned out better if it weren't a pay-per-view, if it didn't cost the audience $80 to see it, because what this really was...
This was a glorified rebound fight for Teofimo to prove that he's still got enough. He's still got it. Enough of it to beat a Rolly Romero, which he did. I'm not arguing with the decision. I'm just saying I wasn't impressed.
I'm just saying you would have been better off billing this as part of a regular schedule, because why should Teofimo return to pay-per-view coming right off a loss earlier this year?
What are you, rewarding this guy for losing?
So then what incentive is there to fight hard and put forward a memorable performance? What incentive is there to win?
You can lose and fight for a title. You can lose and be on pay-per-view.
The point being, if boxing isn't the draw that it used to be and the characters are not as compelling, maybe it's because the sport takes away from its own legitimacy to where it barely feels like a sport anymore, at least in this country, with these fighters, in what I can only describe as the weakest era of welterweights that I've ever seen.
The undercard was pretty fucking forgettable.
Not a single one of those guys should have been behind a paywall. Not a single one of you should have had to pay to see them in what was a blur in real time. A series of forgettable performances that I've no doubts nobody is talking about today.
Nobody's thinking about. What was the most memorable moment on the undercard? I couldn't tell you. I was too busy daydreaming about Chloe Bailey's ass.
And I saw some complaining about the pacing for the show now that PBC is sharing cards with DAZN that you don't need a 15 to 30 minute podcast in between fights. Let's move this thing along. We don't want to be here till the wee hours of the morning.
But we were.
And so the prediction stuck. I went with Teofimo Lopez to win, not knowing if he'd pack enough punch, enough power as a welterweight to get Rolly Romero out of there, and he didn't. He won a decision.
That makes him a 3-weight world champion now. That will be enough to get him back on the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list, though as stated, I'd be lying to you if I said I were impressed with what I saw.
Amused or entertained during the fight. Really wasn't. It was just
sort of entertaining in the first half of the fight, while Rolly Romero still had steam and still had pop. But in the second, things got kind of one-paced.
Packed house at T-Mobile, a lot of people came out. Big event. What's your immediate takeaway? Your immediate thoughts?
Was it what you expected? Only did he hurt you?
My immediate thoughts, I mean, look at my face. I hit with 2 clean shots the whole fight.
You have a scratch on you, Rolly.
So, I mean, if that's enough to beat the champion, that's enough to beat the champion. I've heard him multiple times. I'm owed a rematch. For sure owed a rematch.
I don't expect to see that happen for the simple fact that this fight didn't generate the business necessary to do a second.
at the gate or at the box office. There's no sense in doing a second fight if nobody's going to buy it.
And, yeah, congratulations to Teofimo.
You hurt Teofimo in that 5th round to the eye. You saw the blood. You pounced on him there. It felt like he came back a little bit in the 6th round and hurt you to the body a little bit.
He's never hurt me at any given moment. He got hurt multiple times throughout the fight. Every time I threw a shot, I landed him. He couldn't land anything clean on me, and it was clear and apparent.
We're going to open it up to media questions for Rolly Romero.
Rolly, what are you going to do now?
Just 2 questions, Rolly.
Can you skip him? Put somebody else. I don't want to deal with this dude.
Oh, shit.
He blasphemed.
That's the mic. Charlie, what are you going to do now?
Steven Gudeno, Carolina Sports. Rolly, seemed like the right hand to the body, that was a big part of their strategy, was kind of jab, right hand to the body. You kind of...
He didn't land any of them. It was blocked with an elbow.
I was going to say, I wasn't sure if that was something that was bothering you. Your side seemed a little red, at least from where we were sitting.
Red where?
Right there.
That's called blood.
I see blood on your leg too. When you caught him.
I don't see anything red.
No,
so
I'm saying blood on your leg. Probably Teal's blood.
yeah, no,
I'm
that's for sure
assuming.
Teal's blood, but I don't see anything red on my side. So don't start that initiative.
But what did he do in there that maybe was unexpected that you haven't seen to
He
you?
didn't land a single shot. You guys can clearly see he didn't land a single shot.
Needless to say, Rolando Romero is not happy with the outcome of the fight.
Teofimo Lopez is once again the man of the hour, and reigning IBF welterweight champion Liam Paro, after the fight, wasted no time calling him out, saying, "Congratulations, now let's unify."
This is after the failed set of negotiations between him and Devin Haney, this division's WBO champion, that's resulted in a bona fide case of he said, she said. The word on the street was that Liam priced himself out of the fight, where Liam and his people have a different story.
So he's now shifting his focus to the newly minted WBA champion. Maybe he'll have better luck with him, but this is being met with some resistance in some circles. A guy who goes by the name Hip Hop Sports Junkie said, "So you're ducking a career high payday with Haney to get less, possibly fighting T.O.?"
Tell you the truth, I don't really got a preference which one of these two guys Liam ends up fighting. I'm about as interested in seeing him fight Devin as I am interested in seeing him fight T.O. because I have no interest in this crop of welterweights. So unification matches don't even mean to me here what they might mean somewhere else. T.O. can do what he wants now that he has a belt. He can fight Liam. He can see about fighting the winner of Ryan Garcia versus Conor Ben.
Do it.
And I might watch it, though. Asking me to care or view these fighters through the same lens as I view some others in this era or the ones before it, I just can't.
I've never been this indifferent to boxing in all my years as a boxing fan.
The decision could have went the other way yesterday, and I wouldn't have gave a shit. I wouldn't have gave a damn.
But I picked Teofimo to win, and that's what he did, at least on paper. He didn't impress me, but there it is.